Hey, I'm Brian Van, SportbikeTrackHere.com, and today we're going to answer a question I've been asked a million times. I just installed this sweet exhaust on my Gixxer 750. Do I have to tune it so it doesn't blow up? Okay, before we dive into this, it's really important that I let you know everything we're going to be talking about today is intended to be used on motorcycles like Max Van's Suzuki GSXR 750 Moto America Super Sport race bike that are used in a closed course environment. Track days, amateur racing, pro racing, trail riding, maybe. This is not designed to be used with motorcycles that are going to be used on the public roadways. Odds are it wouldn't even be legal, and it varies from state to state. Okay, so everything here is about off-road use only. So many times over the years I've been asked, hey man, I just installed this kick-ass M4 full system on my bike. I threw a BMC air filter in it. Is this thing gonna blow up if I don't get it tuned? Short answer is no, it's not going to. You put the parts on it, and if you're happy with the overall changes that it's made, just go ahead and ride it and have a great time, right? There are exceptions to that. They're very few and they're slight, but they can be important. As I go further into this video, I'm going to give you a great resource where you're going to be able to actually ask that question or maybe read their FAQ and make sure that you don't have one of those bikes that could be damaged by not getting it tuned. You can ask them, do I have to get this bike tuned? And they're not going to bullshit you. These guys are going to shoot you straight. And more importantly, if you want to invest in extracting all the benefit from that exhaust, the air filter, maybe the velocity stacks that you've installed on your bike, you want to get the maximum performance from that combination, these guys are going to be able to get you there with a mail-in service, flashing your ECU. It's pretty sweet. See, you go back in the day when I was the one doing the riding and not Max, how we dealt with tuning, fuel mapping, ignition mapping is you'd get these standalone piggyback fuel controllers that would plug in series, right? Pizzazz, dyno jet, you put them on there, and if you didn't want to take your bike to a dyno tuner to have a full map done, you'd try and find a file available in their database that was using a full exhaust, maybe kind of close to what you're doing, and it'd kind of get you in the ballpark and you'd roll with that. Like everything, technology marches forward and the motorcycles have followed along that path they're blazing, and they're much more complicated now than they've ever been. It's also important to note that, noise and emission restrictions have become much more stringent than they ever were. A lot of the OEMs, in order to meet those requirements, they're having to restrict the bikes through the factory ECU. So the only way to really maximize the performance of it, right, for the track use, is to have the ECU flashed. This trend is not going anywhere, right? And so what I decided to do is I decided to find a partner that we could steer our customer base towards. We obviously sell a lot of parts for bikes that are being used on racetracks. I want to find a resource where you could get your ECU flashed. There's a couple of different ways to do it. Way one is if you have a great local tuner like we happen to here, Dwayne Hoffer Performance, mid-Michigan, right? Did a lot of work on Max's Moto America Ninja 400s. Fantastic job, great resource. It's not practical for most. While there are tuners sprinkled all across the country, you'll see with different videos and such online, some of their work can be suspect. If it's not done correctly, it can actually damage the engine of your bike. And let's face it, in today's DoorDash world, man, I'm gonna tell my DoorDash story now. It's a couple weeks ago, my wife was out of town. I'm fending for myself, not a problem, pretty self-sufficient, ran out of eggs. I needed some breakfast. I'm like, hey, Mars, can you DoorDash me something from Florida? And she's like, ask Sophia, my 14-year-old daughter, to do it. I did, and there was, long story short, breakfast on my porch in 15 minutes, and it was amazing. So, taking the bike to a tuner, just really not convenient, right? So what I wanted to find was a resource where you could mail in and have the ECU flashed without having to sacrifice anything. We landed on two-wheel dyno works in Washington, and I'm going to share with you all the reasons why. Founded almost 20 years ago by Nels, staffed now and ran largely by Nate, two combustion geniuses. They are pumping out some solid work and they have some amazing credentials. Their credentials are as follows. Like most recently, Nate worked with Scott Smart, the technical director, right, for British Superbike, director of technology for World Superbike, and he does some stuff with Moto America too. They worked on some R&D for balancing the all-new Suzuki GSX 8R in Moto America Twin Scope. Pretty cool. Obviously, this guy must know what he's doing. M4 exhaust. My buddy Kyle over there, one of the owners, has done different projects while developing exhaust with Nate, speaks very highly of him. I reached out to other folks, did some stuff directly with Nate. They do a fantastic job. I think we found the right place. If you visit their website, you're gonna see this awesome FAQ page that Nate built. Answers a lot of the questions that many of us might have, you know, get pretty technical. It's got some great YouTube videos, got some great videos on their social, right? Taking a real deep dive into the science of tuning. Super confident these guys know what they're doing. So what they do is with any common bikes, like say the Suzuki behind me, where there's gonna be a lot of them out there being used on the racetrack, they're gonna go out, they're gonna get a bike, they're gonna order in all of the common exhaust systems that would be installed. They're gonna get the common air filters. There's velocity stacks that are used for those motorcycles. They're gonna bring those in and they're gonna sit there and they're gonna build custom mapping for many different combinations, right? So odds are, no matter what you're running, they probably have a map that is literally customized for that combination of parts being used. They verify their work on the dyno, obviously, right? I got some estimates from them over the period of time, almost 2 decades, that they've been open. About 18,000 different motorcycles with well over 150,000 dyno passes. Pretty impressive, right? They've also taken this all to the racetrack. To really do proper R&D, you need to be using it in the real world. They've worked with several riders that have set track records in the Pacific Northwest and in British Columbia to help develop their strategies, okay? A lot of the bikes that are out there now, it's not just fuel and ignition mapping. You know, you have a bike that has traction control and wheelie control, and if the engine braking can be manipulated in the ECU, that stuff needs to be addressed as well to get this thing to lay the power down smoothly and extract maximum performance. Nate's a racer himself. They have many resources, like I said, track record holders they've worked with over the years to dial this in. So when you send your ECU to them, right, this is as close to full bore. I dropped my bike off at a dyno and it was there for days as you could possibly get, but it's super convenient. Mail it in, get it back, reinstall it, and you are good to go. It's also very important to note that all of the fuel mapping that they're building is intended to be used with standard premium pump gas, the 91, the 93 that you roll right up to the pump and pump in, because that is the most practical for track riding, right? Just fill your 5 gallons, 5-gallon jugs full of your 91 to 93, and you're good to go, ready to enjoy your weekend. To get a hold of them, the contact info is all gonna be strung across this video as well. They're really easy to get a hold of, happy to help. Nate's a great guy. They're gonna get your questions answered, and I feel like they are the best service out there for mail-in ECU or in-person ECU flashing today.